The Baltimore Ravens come into Gillette Stadium and win this one against the Patriots 37-26. The Patriots now 1-2 through the first 3 games of the season. Michael, Holley, Tommy, Curran, Ted Johnson, Amina Smith here with you. Matt Cassel to join us in a few. And we'll talk about Mac Jones and that leg injury towards the end of the game in a minute. But first, Holley, I take a look at this game and I really did not think that it was going to come out the way that it did, where the Patriots defense was able to kind of hold off the Ravens offense, but really give their offense some opportunities to stay in this game. But what was your biggest takeaway from this matchup?
Takeaways. That was my biggest takeaway from this matchup. The Patriots had a lot of opportunities. They were able to move the ball. The offense looked better than it has at any point, not only this season, in the preseason, all of training camp. We've been waiting for one of those glimpses, some sign of functionality from the offense, but it was the turnovers, and it was Mac Jones turning it over inexplicably a couple of times. And I think, Tom Curran, this has become the hallmark, unfortunately, of Mac Jones. First half of his rookie year, he was a guy who took care of the ball, made the smart plays, processed well. Lately, this is not this current coaching staff. You go back to the midway point of last season, all the way through every game, there seems to be a turnover from Mac Jones. It's a disturbing trend.
It's a 1-2 Patriots team. Many of us figured the Patriots might not be a playoff team this year, so you can deal with the fact that they're going to lose some football games. But there's 2 things that come clear today. They failed the test of the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. That's okay. Teams do fail that. But Mac Jones, who are you? Are you the guy who takes care of the football and has a beautiful mind and is wonderfully accurate and shepherds your team to victory? Or are you the guy who's going to throw a pick when a 3-point field goal will help you very much in the stretch run of the football game, or you're going to throw off your back foot? You got to be one or the other. You're not necessarily a scintillating playmaker. So if you're not going to be that, be the game manager who doesn't make those kinds of mistakes.
Are you going to be Chad Pennington or primetime Kirk Cousins?
There you go.
Figure it out.
There you go.
Right?
And I think you hit it on the nail, Michael, when you say it's this. This is a trend with Mac Jones. I mean, you're starting to see a guy he makes a lot of plays out there. I mean, 450 yards of total offense. And Mac, he was cooking it up in that first half. All right. And then in the second half, you see some of these mistakes that they're inexplicable. And they're just, did you see that linebacker, Mac? Or why would you throw it when you have pressure coming into the end zone? So some really bad decision making from Mac Jones. And you saw that a little bit last year, and that was a concern last year, but you're continuing to see it this year. And although he'll make plays to get his offense going, and just like last week, I think although the Patriots won, I think they won in spite of Mac Jones last week. This week, I think a big reason they lost was because of Mac Jones.
And you take a look at Mac Jones in that stat line today, 22 of 32, 321 yards, and those 3 interceptions. Ted, were those just bad decisions by Mac Jones, or was he just in a bad position? Like, what was it? Because I'm looking at maybe the second interception that he had. I was like, okay, that was a bad throw. I felt like he threw it all the way to the end zone. It was almost like, okay, what are you doing there?
Right. No, I would say, I think what's got Mac Jones a little bit flustered is pressure. And even when there's just a little bit of pressure, I feel like he's sped up. I mean, it's subtle, it's little, but you can see his body clock is a little bit sped up, and he's just not seeing linebacker. Here, pressure. He just throws it up. He feels the pressure. So I'm just going to throw it up because I feel pressure. And that's what you're seeing, I think, Mac Jones more times than not, is just feeling pressure and mechanically breaking down, throwing off his back foot, and they're just making a bad decision.
Because I want every single quarterback in the NFL, whether it was Mahomes or Rodgers or Tom Brady, would have felt that pressure because it's coming in your face. And I think that's what I'm saying is you can't make that decision then. It either has to be in the first row of the stands or bouncing on the back end line. He, in turn, you could see the frustration is by the time he gets to the sideline, he's F-bombing all over the place and looking for a flag, and that's a dicey place to expect a flag. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be one or the other. How much is he hampered by, let's bring it back up again, the lack of a coaching staff that is seasoned around him to tell him, hey, know your situation here on third down in the red zone.
Tom, you hit it. I mean, you hit it right there. It's kind of, why doesn't he throw it out of the back of the end zone right there? Either there's 2 reasons that'll explain it. Either he doesn't know, or he doesn't care. And so neither one is a good reason. So if he doesn't know, it's because the coaches aren't telling him in that situation, really telling him, really hammering it, really making that point to, hey, throw it in the back of the end zone. When you get pressure like that, we'll just live to see another down. Or you don't care, and you're trying to make a play. I see Mac trying to make plays and playing maybe outside of himself at times.
But I would say last year, this is not new for Mac. So I don't think it's the coaching staff. Remember that game? They were sitting pretty. They go into Indianapolis, and they have a big meltdown in Indy. One of the bad plays he made there was an interception in the red zone. He had Josh McDaniels there, one of the best offensive coordinators in the league. He started, but he kept sliding. And I'm sure they told him, hey, don't throw an interception in the red zone. You shouldn't have a coach shouldn't have to tell you that.
You got
especially if you say, I love the way you say it's a beautiful mind of Mac Jones. Okay, you got a beautiful mind. You should know that already. I think he had some throws today. Like, what are you thinking? The one interception where he just kind of steps back, and it was one of his best velocity-wise, one of his best throws of the day. But it was to a Raven, and you wonder, okay, what are you seeing there? So sometimes it's pressure. Other times he just makes bad reads. I
think one other thing that I think it's important to note is that I believe, I don't know how many interceptions he has on the season, 5, I think.
No.
4.
Too many.
4 of the first 5 interceptions, all the passes were intended to, number 1, Devontae Parker. And that just might just be total coincidence or not. But it seems like 4 of his 5 interceptions have been the target was intended for Devontae Parker.
Let's bring in Matt Cassel right now to talk a bit about Mac Jones. And Matt, when you take a look at what Mac was able to do out there today, let's first start with the good, because I feel like in the first half he was a completely different quarterback than he was in the second half. But what did you see out of Mac Jones today?
You said it very correctly right there. He had a great first half. Even when you go out from halftime in the first drive of the series to start the second half, that was an outstanding series. They go right down the field, 75 yards. I think it was 7 plays. They score a touchdown. They're in a rhythm, everything else. And then really when things started to unravel, they unraveled quick. In 4 of the last 5 positions, they had turnovers, and it started with the interception. As you guys just showed, he missed the linebacker, just blatantly didn't see him. And what happened on that play is he comes off the play fake, he turns his head around, and he's primarily focused on Parker just sitting there in the middle of the field. He doesn't see the linebacker, but they are zone droppers. They're getting in their zone. All he's got to do is check the ball down. I think it was Ramondre Stevenson in the flat. He's wide open. He's going to run for 10 yards. So you just got to take the profit in some of those. The other one, he gets pressure. But again, you guys are talking about he should know the situation. He absolutely should know the situation. We always are told, don't make a bad play worse. He understands that he's getting pressure. He's giving ground. But to throw up a ball like that, it's reckless, and it resulted in a pick when you need those points. And you're told every time you're a quarterback, look, no sacks, no penalties, and no turnovers. You know that from day one when you're in high school football, let alone as you get into the pros. So he should have a better understanding of the situation and how important those points were at that point in the game.
Mac Jones also seen hopping off of the field at the end of the fourth quarter. And if you're a Patriots fan, that is not what you want to see with the rest of the season in front of this team. But Curran, just how detrimental could it be for the Patriots if Mac Jones is seriously injured with that left leg?
You know what's interesting is he had such a good game physically. His problems were not at all related to arm strength or anything. It was decision making. So you know that he has the physical part to manage games and make gutsy decisions and gutsy plays. So it sucks. But maybe it's mental reps that he kind of needs. I mean, he needs to look at this film, I think, Amina, and really study it. Are they hosed a little bit if it's Brian Hoyer starting games for them? I think he can manage. I think he can manage. And I know that people have a scar left over from Kansas City a few years ago when he didn't have a huge amount of preparation. But Matt, having been with Brian Hoyer, and we don't know anything about this, at the very least, I'm looking Dr. Curran says it's a high ankle sprain.
Nice.
If it is a high ankle sprain and he's unable to prepare and Brian Hoyer comes in, what are you looking at, Matt?
Well, I mean, Brian Hoyer's been in this offense for a long period of time. He's been in this league for, 14 years now. So he's a guy that hopefully can go in and be productive for you, take care of the football, because that's what it's going to take when a guy like Brian Hoyer is going to go in there. But when you look at them in terms of just their abilities physically, Brian Hoyer and Mac Jones are very similar in what they are as a quarterback. They're not going to run around, make a ton of plays, even though Mac Jones made some great plays with his legs today. Brian Hoyer is a very similar player. He's a veteran guy. He'll be able to go in there, and you won't won't be sitting there going, oh man, he just can't do it. He understands, he's mentally prepared. So it'll be very interesting to see how they do. But again, there's so many things that we can highlight that were positive in this game, but they're all overshadowed by that end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, particularly offensively, and how they got it going finally for the first time today.
Holley, what's your outlook on this team if Mac Jones isn't able to play for a couple of games?
Yeah, a couple of games. A couple of games should be all right because Green Bay was going to be a challenging game with or without Mac. And then after that, the schedule does soften up. So I really thought at the beginning of the season, I was probably alone on this one. If they could come out of this 4-game stretch 2-2, then you can start to stack up some victories. So it all depends on what Dr. Curran says is that high ankle sprain. Put some ice on it, take a couple of aspirin, let's talk in the morning, see how it goes.
Aspirin, please. Keep
Keep it elevated. But you know what I would say with Hoyer, in all seriousness, the only thing that changes is the 50-50 balls. Because I don't think you'll be going deep with Brian Hoyer. But all the stuff over the middle, I think he can do. If you have Jacoby Myers back next week, Brian Hoyer running that type of offense, and now that you've figured out that you can throw slants and in cuts to Devontae Parker, it should be all right for a backup quarterback to have some success.
There's a lot of meat on the bone here, and I want to get to Devontae Parker and whether or not it's on Mac for throwing those picks to him, or if it's like, hey, this is going to be part of the deal with Devontae Parker. You'll live by the Devontae, you die by the Devontae. But we're kind of glossing over the 37 points allowed by the defense.
Yeah.
Was this a byproduct of Lamar Jackson and won't happen again? Is this a precursor to next week what Aaron Rodgers might be able to do?
I think it's more of a Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens thing. I really do. Look, this front seven has been fantastic through the first 2 weeks. I know they gave up a big game to Lamar today, running the football. I mean, he killed him running the football. Let's face it, he closed that game out with his legs. I think that's kind of a one-off. He's a unique player. I mean, they have quarterback design runs just for Lamar. There's not many teams in the NFL that are doing that. And so, although it's alarming, it's particularly alarming, you guys, how the defense played. Just, I think, at the end of the second half, going into the end of the first half, going into the second half, they couldn't stop them. They started off really good and they couldn't stop them. I think this defense is going to be okay. I thought Jonathan Jones did a lot of great things, an interception, a forced fumble. He was fantastic. So I think this defense, I'm not too concerned about it moving forward from this game because I think it's a one-off because they played Lamar Jackson, who we all know, guys, is a special player.